Hello, I'm the barrister, Stephen Barrett, and I wanted to give my thoughts on what's going on now that Andrew Mountbatten Windsor has been so publicly arrested on his birthday. Firstly, I'd like to make it absolutely clear that I've never respected the man, never liked the man. Throughout my childhood, almost all royal scandals were connected with him, and he's been an embarrassment for the royal family for a very long time. More than happy to believe that he is a not decent human being. He is, though, entitled to the protection of innocent until proven guilty, and I think that's more important because it says something about us as a country than it says about anybody who may or may not be charged with any crimes. Of course, he's not been charged with any crimes. The usual spiel. I'd also like to just absolutely clarify that he has two daughters, both of whom are absolutely blameless. Children do not pick their parents. Okay, so we'll be leaving them alone. Or I hope people will be leaving them alone. My major take on the arrest of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor is that the entire thing is a deflection. It's a big bang, a loud explosion, what inside the political bubble people often call a squirrel, designed so that literally you release a squirrel, look at the squirrel, everybody goes, and that distracts them from the story of the day. Prince Andrew, or the man formerly known as Prince Andrew, is being investigated for an economic crime. It does carry a very serious penalty. Again, innocent until proven guilty. We'll leave him alone. If this were a normal situation, the Prime Minister would be saying, Keir Starmer would be saying, don't talk about this. I'm a former director of public prosecutions. Please, nobody prejudice the trial. Did the Prime Minister do that? What the Prime Minister did was went on the media and asked for people to step forward for evidence, directly interfering in a police process. The very thing he criticises others for doing, the very thing he says that we're not supposed to do. And I'm afraid at these points, my heckles rather rise and I start to feel like we're being played strongly because I feel like we are being played. Obviously, absolutely appalling things happened on the Epstein Islands. I've seen talk of a 9-year-old victim. That's something that appears to be seared deeply in my brain. I can't seem to get away from that. That's absolutely monstrous, that poor victim. I want whoever did anything wrong to a 9-year-old, well, let's not say what I want to happen to them because this is YouTube and I'll probably get cancelled. But I hope you can all imagine what I want to happen, and I hope everyone watching this is a decent human being, so I hope we just all agree on what should happen to anybody who does anything to a 9-year-old. Yeah. I talk a lot about going down the pub. I'm pretty sure if I went down the pub in the town I live in, down the Spoons, everybody would agree on what we do about someone who hurts a 9-year-old. Good. That's one of the reasons I like living in our country. We're decent human beings. We don't want 9-year-olds hurt. But I make that point about the 9-year-old because it's really important that awful things happened on this island. And the man far more connected to all of this, the man who is far closer to Jeffrey Epstein, a far better friend than Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, is Peter Mandelson. And yet we're being deflected from Peter Mandelson. The focus is not on Peter Mandelson. The focus is on Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, who, by the way, it's looking as though Peter Mandelson was pushing Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. And the man who to his credit now, or not credit, well, let's see if any credit at all, is trying to at least keep some focus on Peter Mandelson is Gordon Brown. How interesting, the former Prime Minister. The former Prime Minister who brought Peter Mandelson back into government. The former Prime Minister who, by a pseudonym, was himself involved in emails to Jeffrey Epstein. The former Prime Minister who, frankly, also needs investigating over all of this. And that's all we ever need to say, because as I've discussed this before, we carry on believing in the presumption of innocent until proven guilty, not for any of these people, not for their benefit, but for ours. so that we are a better and a decent country where people can have a fair trial and experience things. But I will go so far as to say that Gordon Brown needs investigating. Right, Stephen. Gordon Brown needs a criminal investigation for bringing Peter Mandelson back into government and being connected to these emails and other issues, be they economic crime or other far more morally evil crime involving Jeffrey Epstein, the world's most famous paedophile, then so does Keir Starmer. And you can't really get away from this. There's no deflection that is possible. And if you've bought the Andrew Mountbatten Windsor drama today, I think you're entitled to. I mean, it's a big thing to have a member of the royal family arrested. If I seem relaxed, it's because I'm a constitutional scholar, and I'd get rid of the royal family, absolutely get rid of them all if I needed to, because our constitution can. So I don't have this automatic deference to them. I've never been invited. If I invited to a Buckingham Palace garden party, that would be lovely. I'd wear a nice suit. I'd make sure my shirt was clean, and I'd do whatever the protocol is on the bowing and the things, and I'd have some finger sandwiches, and life would be great. But I wouldn't feel anything. I don't feel anything particularly emotional to them myself. That's probably because I've never served in the armed forces. If you're from the armed forces and you're watching this, you're probably very angry at me now. Do forgive me. I know that our men and women of the armed forces fight and die for the king. So actually, I have much more respect for them than anybody who is wearing the crown. And I respect the crown, but a man or a woman will wear the crown. And that man or woman is not somebody to whom I defer. The crown I will. Absolutely I will. And the crown in Parliament is sovereign. And as I said, our armed forces die for it. But we can literally change the family that wears that crown. Okay? And I think that's a fundamental that people may have forgotten. I think it's really very important that we remember it. Ironically, one of our periods of history that when we were most successful was when we had drama. So we decided that a new family needed to wear the crown. And we gave the crown to George I, who was a German noble who just liked hunting and fishing and being out in the countryside and didn't speak English. And that was great because he came over and he wore the crown. So he did all the state things. He signed all the laws. He did exactly what he was supposed to do. And he spent most of his time hunting and fishing, and he didn't cause anybody any bother, which is great. He didn't have any policies. He wasn't political in any way. And that's really when our constitution works its absolute best. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor was in no danger of ever wearing the crown. Let me be absolutely clear on that. Because Parliament could and would have stepped in to block him. There have been so many questions about him for so long that simply was never not a possibility. And I think we need to have this much more grown-up relationship with understanding that, of course, I will bow. Of course, I will stand. I stand during the King, particularly the late Queen's speeches, even in my own home on Christmas Day, because I wish to show respect to that individual, yes, to the crown, and above all, to the men and women of our armed forces. But I do think this is a major distraction, people. Major distraction. The greatest wrong-un connected to Epstein, from our point of view, the Americans may have some true monsters lurking in the closet. But the greater problem from our point of view is Peter Mandelson. And as I said, former Prime Minister Gordon Brown, current but soon to be former Prime Minister Keir Starmer, are deeply implicated in that, to the point where we need a wide-scale criminal investigation. Thank you.